Greetings to the entire viewers. What I am presenting you a kind of new pattern of questions which are generally or frequently seen in the mains examination of SBI or IBPS. The type of question that is mentioned there is like a sentence rearrangement or parajumble, which is being frequently seen in the questions of prelims or mains. As the direction says, in each of the following questions a short passage is given with one of the lines in the passage missing and represented by a blank. Select the best of the 5 answers choice given to make the passage complete and coherent. In other words, these type of questions are also called as logical coherent paragraphs and at the same time paragraph completions. The nature of such paragraphs matches with the extract of the newspaper, which is frequently seen in the newspapers like basically economic newspaper or business newspapers. What is the normal pattern and the protocol that the question answer has to be done? First, the entire paragraph, the central or main idea has to be taken. What is the paragraph trying to convey? And out of that, when we are sure about the idea, this is the particular topic about which the paragraph is talking on, then we need to find out how different sentences are arranged together to create a paragraph. As we can see here, there are 2 to 3 sentences here, separated by full stop and comma, and there are certain words used in the paragraph. As we can say, the paragraph starts with the 13th Finance Commissions cover a span of more than 60 years, during which many conditions have changed, full stop, and the word is correspondingly. The approach of the later commissions may be expected to be different in several respects from the earlier ones. Now see the words corresponding. The word matches with the concept of the geometry which says corresponding angle. If 2 lines cross each other, that is cross each other, then they create an angle one opposite to other side, and those angles are nothing but the corresponding angle. And we might have learned that particular concept, that each corresponding are equal to one another. In this case also, the sentence before correspondingly and the sentence after correspondingly is equally parallel. They are similar in nature. Anything that situation is being created after the word of correspondingly has to be the same just before the word of correspondingly. So what is the sentence trying to say? Almost 60 years have been covered by 13th more or less finance commissions. So many conditions have changed. Similarly, if the conditions have changed, then the approach must have been changed. So after the word of correspondingly, the approach and different methods have also been changed. But the next sentence starts with the word of nevertheless. What is the word here? Nevertheless, we can see here. Nevertheless is the contrast word. We might have learned this in coordinate conjunctions. These 2 words, the first word is correspondingly and the other word is nevertheless. These 2 words are logical and transitional words in the language reading that we teach generally to the students or aspirants. They define the structure of the entire sentence in the given paragraph. After nevertheless, any sentence after nevertheless will be just opposite to the sentence before nevertheless. As it says, nevertheless, it is possible to discern certain common elements in the thinking of the successive finance commissions. Now, the sentence says certain common elements, and sentence before nevertheless says situation to be changed all after covering 60 years. Now, after nevertheless certain common elements, but before nevertheless something is being changed. So by default it creates a contrast, which have come to evolve gradually what may be called the Indian Finance Commission approach to federal finance. So anything that has to be common is related with again the word of logical, that is which again relating the previous sentence of the word. Now other sentence says, according to this approach, state's share of central taxes is not allocated strictly on the basis of need. So finally the crux has come here. The crux says, and the idea says, any approach which was not followed, and that approach was that the taxes were not allocated strictly on the basis of principle. So if the principle said, if the finance commission said it has to be distributed in such a way, and the distribution was not taking place on that particular pattern, then there must be a kind of loophole here that if the previous finance commission was distributing the same thing and next finance commission ordered to create something change, but the change was not made, certainly the previous slab was taken again in the next slab, and this must have created a kind of similarity. That is why the line says state's share of central taxes is not allocated. See, the negative word is here. And the other line says these problems and shortcomings are come later in light but have caused what was not accounted at that time. ठीक है, these have come later in light, जो कि पहले अकाउंट नहीं हुई थी. तो जाहिर से बात हो रही है यहाँ पे, अगर देखें फिलर के बाद वाले सेंटेंस में दो सेंटेंस अपने नेगेटिव में है जो कि नेवरदलेस के साथ बिल्कुल मैच कर रहे हैं. दे आर मैचिंग विद द वर्ड ऑफ नेवरदलेस. सो एनी सेंटेंस providing a coherence type of thing that is matching with the nevertheless, and sentences after nevertheless creates a context of negative structure, then certainly any option failing that option will have to be a negative structure. So what is the sentence option A trying to convey? And it happened to be in that way. Usually if we fill that particular option A, then it does not provide any coherence. And when we go to the option B, it says there are several inadequacy in the approach of the finance commission. Certainly, if there would have been some negative structure, then it must match the coherence of the inadequate sense. So any not or certain common elements must have some characteristic to be similar to the word of inadequacy. So certainly we agree with the option A, there must be some problem, that's why the inadequacy word has been applied with the structure of nevertheless, and nevertheless has been applied with the structure of not. So option B is certainly a type of certainty that this option can be. Now again other option has to be taken care of. So what is the other option trying to say? Option C say evolution is a long process and it is same story for commissions. Now nowhere in the paragraph evolution has been talked on in the later sentence. Evolution was there only in the first sentence, that the evolution has taken 13 finance commission, it has covered around 60 years, after which there are certain similar condition and opposite conditions. So we can see the evolution word is only in the first line. What we have to do in the logical coherent paragraph, we certainly have to match the sentence that is before the filler and after the filler so that it matches with the context of the given paragraph. So option C says is a long process, evolution. It talks about evolution, but the previous sentence is not talking about evolution. So we vehemently reject option C. And option D says, but they differ completely from them and each time new approach was looked for. So in this case, we certainly do not find any kind of new approach, old approach here. The context is, but they differ completely from them and each time new approach was looked for. So this particular option does not matches with the context of not. And when we go in the option C, this was based on the tax sharing basis principle of commissions. Now we do not find any principle that shares in between because the principles are just different. The previous sentence talks about similarity, but the next sentence talks about certain thing common. So if tax sharing basis principle was commission was something like similar, then this option E option would have been there, but the E option is not being applied here. So we vehemently can reject option E also. So according to the given paragraph, what we find the option B to be most suitable option for the given paragraph so that it provides a coherence in the entire paragraph and complete meaning in the paragraph. So what we can say, option B is the most appropriate answer for the given paragraph. Such types of questions are generally seen in the mains examination of SBI or IBPS. Generally, what a reader has to be done, what a reader has to do, certainly, he has to go through the entire economic and business newspaper that is covering bank, finance, economics topics so that he can be familiar with this, such kind of knowledge, awareness, that is what is finance commission, what is fiscal deficit and blah, 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 blah. So we strongly recommend to the student to read newspaper as much as they can so that they can easily understand the paragraph given in any kind of questions. So that's all for watching. Thank you very much. For further updates, just stay tuned.